Hi, I'm Greg Wheeler, Mayor of Bremerton. In this section of my annual State of the City presentation, I'd like to talk about our police and fire departments. Police support and crime reduction. We finally achieved a milestone that we hadn't seen since 2007, and it was we were finally fully staffed for the first time in many, many years. This was an issue, it was a chronic issue for us. I was well aware of it from my many years on the City Council. Coming into mayor, I sat down with staff and we worked on, well, what's keeping us from being fully staffed? What's keeping us from having multiple candidates to interview so we could select only the best and the most qualified? And so some incentive programs were developed and we put them into place. And I'm proud to say that we had a full staffing levels for the first time, and that just translates into full presence out into all parts of our city. Throughout 2020 was interesting in many aspects. We had to change how we do our policing. One of the community policing strategies is to have a bicycle patrol. It's a direct enforcement team. And we had to curtail that to limit the amount of up-close personal interactions we have with our citizens. This was meant to protect our citizens from the pandemic virus, protect our own city officials from the pandemic and some of the harm of the virus. We instead covered large parts of the city, focusing on life safety issues. We had and prepared for 8 large demonstrations in our Bremerton area. I'm proud to report there was no violence, no property damage, and no injuries. And this is a big deal. And this is a credit to training in our police department. But it's also a credit to our community. It's a credit to the community organizers who helped organize the events. It's a credit to our citizens who participated, that we are all in this together to have this safe venue to ensure voices were heard. This was the key part, is to ensure voices were heard in a safe venue. And so in Bremerton and in Kitsap County, this occurred in 2020, and I'm proud of our community for pulling together during this very important time. And of course, we still are continuing our city's intelligence-led policing initiative. That's just utilizing technology to identify trends and hotspots so we can dedicate resources in the most efficient way possible. A couple of interesting and new initiatives I think you'll be interested in learning about. One was we now have a designated crisis responder contracted with the city. So that's a behavioral health specialist. Not all folks need typical law enforcement intervention if there's a crime. In some instances, the crime is being committed because somebody's going through a mental health crisis. So even though we have highly trained officers who are trained in de-escalation, there is an extra level that is required to help folks who are in a true emergency. And so this new program actually will help to address that. And instead of going to jail, which is the last place anybody wants to send, and especially myself and our police department want to send somebody if they're having a mental health crisis, instead of jail, there is the Crisis Triage Center, which we can now offer. This behavioral health specialist has some authority to order some evaluation, and I look at it as a tremendous way to care for our most vulnerable population and to help folks get onto the path of potentially advocating for themselves and being productive again in our community. The body camera program is also being implemented this year in 2021. I was pleased to work with our police department and then our council, who supported it in the budget. And this body camera program, what's so important about this is it fits a need that we all want. Everybody wants transparency in government. Everybody wants accountability. And the body camera program supports that. Our officers want it, the public wants it. And so I'm pleased to be able to roll this out this year. There's a whole series of events that need to take place. You'll see this come out in the fall of 2021, and we look forward to working with our community as this program is implemented. The Safe Place program is another important initiative that we begin, and it provides that safe place, as it says in the name of the program, that safe place where folks who feel like they may be the victim or potential victim of a hate crime can go and seek almost refuge, where 911 can be called. A person can wait until an officer arrives, and they can do so in a safe environment, knowing that somebody has volunteered to do this. Again, it's just another step in caring for folks who are either are most vulnerable or in really vulnerable situations. This is just the last slide on the police department. Bike statistics are low. If you look at those numbers, all of those numbers were generated without a 911 call. That's the real power of direct enforcement tactics and direct enforcement team. And so they were low because I explained earlier we had to dedicate those officers somewhere else. ESCO and Loki, those are interesting. If you've ever watched, I can't give a comparison other than if you just watch a crime drama and watch how dangerous it appears to do a building search. These dogs do building searches. And so they help with the tracking and arrests of very dangerous individuals in very dangerous situations. That's just a little bit of Loki and ESCO statistics for 2020. Of course, as with all of these, we'll continue these programs in 2021. Fire reduction and public safety. This is very important, and there's a couple programs we brought in. I brought in the fire reduction and safety program, which is it's a safety inspection program working with our fire marshal and the fire department. These are things that they've wanted over the years, and what it does is it's part of this ongoing initiative to try to prevent fire hazards from occurring, and then if you eliminate those, then you start to reduce fires in general. And so it's a proactive measure to use to help our first responders and help our citizens. We've been very active in that. I'll share with you also the first full year of implementation of Marine 20. And when I first came into public office and then especially became mayor, I could never figure out why we, with all of our shoreline, we wouldn't have a rescue boat. And working together, and of course working with our staff in the city council, we now have one. And as you can see, we had 30 responses, 6 people rescued from the water. This also provides another valuable resource as far as, if you'll notice, we've had fires increase in the last 3 or 4 years. There's a lot of reasons behind it. Every state and every city in the country is suffering from the effects of climate change. It could be in snowstorm and ice storms in parts of the country that aren't used to them. It could be frequent and powerful tornadoes. It could be, in our case in Washington State, wildfires. And so what Marine 20 allows us to do is, in many of our heavily forested parts of our city, and we're lucky to have many of them, they're hard to reach by land. We can reach some of them by water. And so this provides another tool to get to fires in hard to reach places where we might have otherwise been in trouble. So I'm proud to share that with you. And so the quick one here, purchase a wildland fire engine and new paramedic unit. And there's some other training that's going in here. This is important. Let me get to the climate change really quickly. No matter how you feel about the science and how it's put together, the fact is we have increased risk every year, and we have increased wildfires every year in our state. Now, the city of Bremerton, over half of our city is actually forested, and it's mostly watershed, which is our drinking water supply. The forest around the actual source, Casad Dam, is necessary as the dam itself for providing legally providing safe drinking water. So without the watershed, we don't have a drinking source for 55% of our customers. That's where we get 55% of the drinking water in our community. Not only the city, but the outlying areas, including the Navy Yard, comes from the Casad Dam. Now the rest comes from groundwater. And so what the purchase of the Wildland Fire Engine will do for us is it allows us to potentially be a first responder if something occurs out in our watershed, but it also allows us to assist, which we do every year now. We assist around the state, and we actually also assist up and down the West Coast. And we do that because we want assistance in return. We help each other in this way, and so when things become overwhelming for our resources, then we can go out and we can actually get more in. So far, we haven't had to call on people to come to Kitsap County, especially Bremerton, but we're not only prepared, but we've also established the relationships to do so. Thank you for watching. You can view other segments of my State of the City presentation at the City of Bremerton webpage.